something. I am a huge advocate of the First Amendment. And let me tell you something. Today, of course I want the 300K bonus, but they're not gonna give me because somebody asked it, they say, hey, this is Disney, you cannot curse. So, I'm not gonna do my speech, but first of all, I love America, I love the Constitution, I love the First Amendment, I want to carry and own guns, I love property, and let me tell you something, if you care about your country, read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, mother.
Renato Moicano, ladies and gentlemen, killing it out here. Renato, what?
Second of all, I just started a podcast. It's going to be the best podcast in the business. The name is Show Me the Money. And on Monday, my guest will be Joe Rogan. You cannot refuse. The people want to see you on my podcast. And follow Money Moicano channel, mother.
Renato, what a speech. But let's talk about the fight. Renato, you...
Seems like everyone has a podcast now, and this is one of the reasons why the UFC is one of the best sporting organizations in the world, because it actually provides free speech to its athletes, which all the other organizations don't. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Radowski here of WeAreChange.org, and there's a lot of crazy things developing internationally as the situation is extremely tumultuous in the Middle East right now, especially after the very ever so aggressive but mostly symbolic moves made by the Iranians that has absolutely changed things dynamically. When it comes to the future of this conflict that hopefully will not be escalating from here, will that be the situation? Well, only time will tell, as of course there's a lot of things to cover from yesterday's major bombshell, or lack of bombshell, development with hundreds of drones flying over the skies, and it looks like only a handful of them landed somewhere. Did they make any impact? Well, we're going to be talking about that, plus the larger international geopolitical and international impact that we're going to be discussing on this particular YouTube channel. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, which is perfect for today, you could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast was, of course, done by Renato Moicano, who literally shouted out the First Amendment and Ludwig von Mises during his victory speech last night at UFC 300 during the prelims, as this man doesn't just look like he's going to be one of the stars of the UFC, but also another young, outspoken man speaking out against the degradation and destruction of Western civilization, which I think we definitely need more young men to speak about. More young women, too. As domestically, the situation is not all right and doesn't favor the Constitution, the Bill of Rights and Freedoms, as, of course, just recently the U.S. House of Representatives voted to approve the government's ability to spy on every single thing you do without even needing a warrant. This as Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and the Republicans bowed down and gave the intelligentsia, gave what some people describe as the deep state the ability and power to essentially pry and spy on every single little thing you do by approving these larger surveillance, dragnet, database harvesting, artificial intelligence building, Fourth Amendment eradicating, civil liberties destroying powers to the federal government, to the intelligentsia, to the Biden administration, after Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, says that he was, quote, persuaded after private backdoor meetings that were, quote, classified. This as the former president of the United States opposed the reauthorization of this bill, and fellow House Republicans just said, we don't care, we're going to bow down and give the deep state what they want, all during an election year where the poll numbers really aren't looking favorable for the current president of the United States, as even a current New York Times poll found that 25% of Americans view Joe Biden's term as, quote, mostly good. Not as good as, of course, Donald Trump, that nearly half of people viewed the same exact way. This as some warmongers are choosing to write in their favorite warmonger, as recently famous neoconservative and chicken hawk John Bolton said that he is going to be writing in Dick Cheney instead of Joe Biden for the presidency in this upcoming presidential election. As it definitely does look like John Bolton and Lindsey Graham are definitely getting what they want, as there has been a massive escalation in the Middle East that they probably are really happy about. This, as just a few hours ago, Iran has announced that they have launched 300 missile attacks on the state of Israel as they publicly announced this and caused a lot of panic internationally all over the world, as of course a lot of people were fearing that this was going to be the start of a larger international global conflict that potentially could have spiraled out of control, as of course these countries have a lot of different alliances that are already fighting many proxy wars with each other, specifically looking at the United States that absolutely backs Israel, and of course Russia that has been strengthening their ties with Iran. This, as today there's a lot of talk about the Iranians, quote, frightening 800 million pound war chest, talking about a lot of their military capabilities as they predominantly sent over Iranian kamikaze drones over to Israel that took a lot of hours to actually fly over to its target. This, as a lot of people described the current situation unfolding yesterday with this satirical scene from an Austin Powers movie.
Watch out! Watch out! Watch out!
As a lot of people were kind of asking themselves, if they're launching a strike, if they wanted to be successful, why would they announce it before they do it? And why would it take multiple hours for the drones to actually get over to its target? Why would they also notify the United States and Israel of exactly what they were doing? As it looks like this larger attack was predominantly one big major saber rattle, as after launching these military strikes that were largely predominantly unsuccessful, Iran released a statement saying that, quote, this matter can be deemed concluded and that Iran's response will be more severe if Israel decides to respond here. This, as the initial reports coming out right now from the Israeli Defense Agency, is that Israel shot down 234 out of 331 missiles, an alleged 98% defense success rate, highlighting a situation that allowed allegedly Iran to save face, especially with its own people, show that it will retaliate without absolutely creating any further life loss from here. This, as CNN is reporting, that from these attacks, this is a larger representation of a, quote, massive failure of Israeli and American deterrence. This, as John Bolton is speaking about the need of course, escalating tensions, striking back, and causing more war in the region. As, of course, it's also important to note here what led up to these attacks is, of course, 14 plus days ago, the Iranians have said that their consulate was hit with many of their top commanders, an attack that, of course, they blamed Israel for 7 days ago. Iran offered not to attack Israel if there would be a ceasefire inside of Gaza. Nearly 4 days ago, Benjamin Netanyahu said that there's going to be now an invasion of Gaza and Rafah, specifically rejecting the ceasefire, and as of yesterday, the Iranians decided to launch military drones inside of Israel. This, as the Ukrainians are also taking the opportunity to, of course, try to politically benefit off of this, as there now probably will be a larger push in Congress to lump in Ukrainian military aid with Israeli military aid, as Zelensky today is saying that these attacks highlight how the United States needs to, quote, fortify their allies, essentially speaking about the larger kind of bifurcation and alliances that are being set here specifically against each other. Israel is announcing similar talking points, describing how this situation has, quote, provided an opportunity to form an international alliance, which, if you're a history of world wars and conflicts, is a very dangerous move to make here now. As, of course, there's a lot at stake here, and other countries joining other alliances, making pacts and defensive agreements with each other, only heightens the potential conflict of a larger world war that we have previously seen essentially established in the same ways. This, as extensively Russia and China are standing behind Iran, and of course the United States and Europe is standing behind Ukraine and Israel. This, as the Iranians have been providing a lot of very important aid to the Russians with their military operations inside of Ukraine. And a lot of people have a lot of different eerie predictions and statements. This as even the Biden administration is worrying about this conflict escalating from here, and they absolutely should be worried about that, as the Biden administration has been losing a lot of political brownie points with a lot of the members of the young Democratic Party who are really not happy about Biden's position here, which seems to be waffling and flip-flopping in many different directions. This, as a new CBS poll, is highlighting how many Americans want Biden to encourage Israel to stop the conflict inside of Gaza right now, as the Biden administration's policy on the issue has been very duplicitous. In one way, saying that they should be stopped, but in another way, financing its larger continuation. As today, the Biden administration is calling for the G7 to meet in response to this attack from Iran and to convey larger kind of conversations that hopefully will try to de-escalate some of the situations here, as we're also finding out today that the United States issued a grave warning to Iran to avoid any kind of American casualties here, to avoid any further escalations, as there's even reports coming in that the Biden administration is specifically telling Israel not to respond here to these particular attacks that essentially amounted to nothing but just a larger symbolic gesture. Will Israel send over their symbolic gesture? As the New York Times today is reporting that the Biden administration allegedly is trying to stop any escalations here, well, only time will tell if Israel will even listen to Joe Biden. As of course, many times the state of Israel just decides to do whatever they want, even when the United States asks them not to do specific actions. As the initial reports that we're getting right now from the Times of Israel is that Benjamin Netanyahu actually called off retaliatory strikes on Iran after an alleged phone call with the current president of the United States. And if that's the situation, that means that hopefully this situation will de-escalate, as it's also important to note here, there's a lot of people that are calling for war, calling for escalations, calling for new alliances, calling for more death. And in my opinion, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's absolutely freaking dangerous. It looks like we were able to avoid a larger conflict. It looks like there hasn't been any massive loss of life, and to me, that is a massive victory, but not to a lot of people who, of course, predominantly work for the military-industrial complex that, of course, usually spew their hatred and nonsense on the corporate media. This as U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn came to Twitter and announced that we must quickly launch retaliatory strikes against Iran now, as a lot of people are saying, no, that's ridiculous, that's stupid. As other individuals who clearly failed geography tried to come out and say that an attack on Israel is an attack on America, which a lot of people said, no, it's actually not. As other people are helping out these neoconservative warhawks with helpful diagrams like this, highlighting a map of the Middle East, showing everyone that this is not the United States. As, of course, the best and brightest minds at the military right now are literally concerned with virtue signaling and larger symbolic gestures that don't really amount to anything, just like these Iranian strikes. As, of course, U.S. Congressmember Thomas Macy took to Twitter and announced, quote, "I'm already against the next war already," and I am too. Ditto. Absolutely agree with Mr. Macy. As, of course, you could also do your own kind of symbolic gesture by getting a t-shirt on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, an actual website that you could click in the description of this video, and you can get shirts like this that talk about how, at least we get a pizza party before World War III, as we have a lot of different shirts that we usually release throughout the week that support this independent media organization. And truly, if it wasn't for you guys supporting us, we wouldn't be here. And we can't thank you guys enough for all of your support. We just launched this Afuera t-shirt, also available, just launched on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. We have a lot of shirts regarding, of course, this bigger war. And to find it, go to thebestpoliticalshirts.com. We have the best all-time sellers on top here. You scroll down here and you go to the latest shirts and you just type in war and then you click the search button and then you're going to be able to find a lot of the shirts that we are highlighting here, including these two famous anti-war symbols and gestures that I think are more important than ever right now to represent to the general public, because wars cannot be fought without consensus and first information wars being successful. That information war is happening right now, and I think more than ever we need to address the elephant in the room and call for de-escalations, call for detente, call for less tragedy, less war, less death. And I think that's a common sense approach here that all of us should be calling for right now, because life is precious, life is worth protecting. And we all now look at Israel to see how they will respond to all of this, as the initial reports that we're getting right now is that, quote, Israel is lock and loaded, and that, quote, Iran will soon pay for their price of this larger symbolic gesture that didn't really amount to anything. Now, what's going to be happening here? How will Israel respond? Only time will tell, even if they will. What do you think is going to be happening here from now on out? Let me know down in the comment section below. But I think it's pretty clear. Your voice matters on this very important issue. And if you agree with that, share this video with your friends and family members, as of course it is more imperative than ever. We're still organizing nature hikes, by the way. We're going to be doing a nature hike, by the way, most likely this upcoming Saturday, April 20th, here in Miami, Florida. And then we're doing another one on April 28th in Austin, Texas. Nature hike just for members of LukeUnfiltered.com. See you there. Touch some grass. Enjoy life while we still can, before crazy, sociopathic, insane individuals try to take it away from everyone. Live your life. Love it. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.